Welcome to GameCube December, where as a gift to myself, I will be playing GameCube games all month long. Nintendo has a massive catalog of games, and like half of those are from completely dead franchises, meaning the franchise hasn't had a new release in a decade or more. This ranges from beloved cult classics like the Mother series, to former mega-hit bestsellers like Nintendogs, to formerly very popular franchises like F-Zero and Star Fox, that for multiple generations formed part of the backbone of Nintendo's consoles, but that have since completely vanished. Now, all of these dead franchises have dedicated fans who are begging for a new release in their favorite childhood video game series, but one long-dead Nintendo series I never see anyone talk about is Custom Robo. It feels like no one besides me is even aware that this series ever existed, which is a shame because Custom Robo is awesome, and there's really nothing else like it in the industry. This series needs a new release, and I'll tell you why. But first, a little history lesson. The Custom Robo series began back in 1999 with the release of Custom Robo on the Nintendo 64. Custom Robo was a game about battling customizable miniature robots against children to become the Custom Robo Master. The gameplay was a weird mix of JRPG, mecha, shooter, and fighting games that doesn't fit comfortably under any of those labels, and was doing something that is still today a pretty unique mix of all of those genres. The first game was never released outside of Japan, and neither did the second Custom Robo V2, which came out for the Nintendo 64 in 2000. The third game, Custom Robo GX, released for the Game Boy Advance in 2002, once again only in Japan. For a while, the Custom Robo series seemed destined to remain one of those weird Japan-only Nintendo franchises that the rest of the world would only get to experience through a Super Smash Bros. Cameo. Finally, in 2004, Custom Robo released for the GameCube, and for the first time ever, a Custom Robo game was released in North America. And we should all lay prostrate before the gaming gods in recognition of this day, because this game was awesome. I loved Custom Robo when I played this game as a kid. And while replaying it for the first time in a long time this week, I've been struck by how well this game still holds up today. Not only was it really good back in 2004, but it's still really fun and really unique today. The game got bad reviews when it released, but that's only because the world is full of morons. Trust me instead, I'm smart. The game's title tells you a lot of what this game is about. You fight battles with robots, and those robots are completely customizable. Customization is a common feature in the mecha genre, but for me personally, I've always found the customization in those games to be sort of overwhelming. There's just too many different little parts and percentages you have to keep track of, and they can start to feel like more of a game about balancing math equations and spreadsheets than a game about fighting giant robots. The genius of Custom Robo was that its customization was very simple, so simple any child could understand it, but still allowed for a vast variety in playstyle. All customization in the game is divided into just 5 categories, and each of those categories has a very straightforward function. Those 5 categories are Robo, Gun, Bomb, Pod, and Legs. The Robo is the basic chassis upon which all other parts will be grafted. You start the game off with a basic Shining Fighter model, which have very average abilities. These are decent at everything but not exceptional at anything, and don't have any unique features. Then there's some basic variations like the Metal Grappler models, which are big and slow but have very high defense, or the Little Raider models, which are small and fast but have a low defense, or the Trick Flyers, which excel at bouncing all over the place in the air. There's some weirder ones too, like my personal favorite, the Strike Vanisher models, which have a stealth warp function, so when you air dash, your Robo phases out of existence for a second, allowing you to move through obstacles and enemy gunfire, warping all over the battlefield. I also like the Funky Big Head models, which have big, funky heads, and excel at jumping really high, straight up into the air, which is a far more useful ability than you might think. It's actually really hard to hit something that's way up in the middle of the air. Try it sometime. The Lightning Sky models are cool because they can fly. They can rocket right across the stage like a fighter jet, firing their guns as they go. And that's not even an exhaustive list of all the Robo types, and you can already see there's a ton of choice and variety here. The next Robo part is the gun, and this is your main damage dealer. There are over 50 guns in the game, and almost all of those individually function completely differently than every other gun in the game. The variety here is wild. One of my favorites is the needle gun, one of the most powerful in the game, which shoots out 3 giant green needle projectiles that travel really far, have huge knockdown power, and do a lot of damage. I also like the dragon gun, which shoots out a single roaring, flaming, homing dragon at your opponent. And I liked the hornet, which fires 5 giant hornets that follow your opponent around the battlefield. And I liked the sword storm, which spawns a bunch of blades in the air that then rain down upon the enemy. There's also a flamethrower, and this bubble gun that shoots bubbles, and this drill gun that shoots drills, and a Gatling gun, and a shotgun, and a sniper. And I mean, there's a gosh darn lot of guns in this game. While I don't think I can describe Custom Robo as a well-balanced game, because some of these guns are objectively a lot better than the others, I do think I can say that almost all of these guns are viable. Depending on your opponent and what combination you're using, almost all of these guns can be effective at least sometimes. Next up are the bombs and pods. Bombs are like missile or grenade launchers, your slow but powerful heavy ordnance. Pods are weird. They're sort of like homing bombs or traps you launch on the ground or in the air to harass your opponent or block their movement. And here's where I get to my only real criticism of the game. Because while the bombs and pods come in just as many different and creative varieties as the guns, they never felt hugely useful to me. You can beat the entire game without ever touching the bomb or pod launcher buttons. And the game actually might even be easier to beat if you don't use them. Any time you spend shooting off bombs or pods is time you're not firing your main gun. And in my experience, that's time wasted, because as far as I can tell, your main gun is always going to be doing more damage faster than bombs or pods can. Pods you can just sort of launch in every direction and leave them alone, because firing them doesn't slow you down at all. Maybe your opponent will run into a couple, or maybe they won't. It probably won't make a huge difference either way. Bombs, on the other hand, you have to completely stop moving to fire, and they're usually really slow and leave you very vulnerable after firing, while at the same time not doing as much damage as your gun would. The bombs feel so situational that I just never bothered to use them almost ever. I really wish the game had made bombs and pods more useful. It's not a huge deal, since there's already so much customization and variety in just the robos and guns, but it's kind of disappointing that like half the customization options feel like they don't really matter. The final part is the legs. There aren't a ton of these, but they can make a massive difference in how your robo functions. For example, the long thrust will make your robo jump way further, while the short thrust will make your jumps much shorter but also faster. And there are other legs for staying in the air longer, or moving faster in the air or on the ground, or making tighter turns on the ground or in the air. These might sound like minor changes because admittedly they are, but in the tougher battles, in smart combination with the rest of your setup, those little changes make a huge difference in how your robo functions, and can very easily make the difference between victory and defeat. So I just spent a lot of time talking about the customization in the game, but that's not the reason I fell in love with Custom Robo when I was a kid, and it's not what I remember the game for today. Don't get me wrong, the customization is really cool and so are the battles. The robo battles in this game are super fast-paced, with robos flying all over the place, explosions everywhere, and your reflexes and accuracy and speed are always being put to the test. These fights can get very strategical. It's all about figuring out what your opponent's makeup and strategy are and how you can counter that. You cannot beat the game by playing the exact same way over and over. You do have to examine your opponent and make adjustments. The battlefields, called Holosseums, also have a ton of variety and can be very dynamic. There's this one that's shaped like a ramen bowl, and this other one that's slowly sinking into a sea of lava. And then there's this one that's shaped like a bathroom. But again, it's not the customization or the battles that make this game so amazing. While those are really fun, it's really this game's story and characters, and especially its hidden little side plots and Easter eggs, that made me fall in love with it. So from here on out, I'm just going to go through the whole plot from start to finish, so I can demonstrate to you how freaking bonkers and awesome it is. Custom Robo's story mode opens with a black screen and some dialogue. Oh, and also, like a lot of GameCube games, there's no voice acting here at all. But for some reason, instead of just being silent, the developers chose to cover all dialogue with these bleeping sounds, which change depending on who's talking. I actually always liked this choice because I thought it added some flavor to the dialogue, but a lot of reviews at the time complained about it. Anyway, as I said before, the game opens with a black screen and some dialogue. The main character's father gives his son a watch and then fucks off, never to be seen again. Years later, the main character is all grown up and getting woken out of bed by his landlady. He has a job interview he's gotta get to, and she doesn't want this lazy boy to miss it. The landlady is Lucy, and she is one of my favorite characters in the game. Custom Robo's story mode has some life sim elements, kind of similar to the Persona series. You start every day by getting up and having a little chat with Lucy, who usually wakes you up. She's very goofy and maternal, kind of grandmotherly. She's always very optimistic and supportive. Whatever your character is doing, she's pretty sure you're doing it real well. The life simulator parts of this game are really cozy and slow-paced. The world is filled with all these silly personalities like Lucy, a lot of whom have their own individual stories distinct from the main storyline, but I'll get into that more later. In the present, your father is dead, and in his will, he told you to become a Custom Robo commander. You have an interview at Steel Hearts, a Robo Commander mercenary group. But they won't take you because you've never piloted a robo before and you don't even have a robo. Here you meet two more of my favorite characters. Harry is your partner and guide throughout the game, explaining everything there is to know about the world and about battling robos. Harry is kind of a piece of shit. He's a womanizing slut who harasses literally every female character in the game. And a lot of characters do comment on how sleazy and unlikable he is. He's the kind of character who would not get written in a video game today. Despite being a womanizing loser, he's got a heart of gold, is usually trying to help others, and is very silly, a source of comedic relief throughout the game. By the end, you kind of can't help but like him, and his womanizing, borderline sexual harassment of female characters is kind of harmless, I guess. The boss of Steel Hearts is Ernest, a big-bodied, big-muscled, big guy who rides around on a hover chair and gruffly shouts orders at everyone. Later on, it turns out that he's really a sensitive soul who writes poetry and really cares about his employees. The send-off he gives you before beginning the dangerous final battle is genuinely kind of tear-jerking and really sweet, but I'll get to that later. While you're failing your job interview, Ernest gets a call from the research lab because there's a burglary in process. You and Harry head over where you meet Linda, the head researcher, who the game insists is a very sexy lady. But it's kind of hard to tell with this game's blocky graphics. Anyway, while screwing up, you accidentally bond with an experimental new robo, and then proceed to defeat every burglar around in robo battles. On account of the free new robo, Steel Hearts decides to hire you. And you've got yourself a job, baby! From here on, the game settles into a comfortable rhythm. Your character gets up in the morning, has a little chat with the delightful Lucy, heads over to the office where you're given your assignment for the day, then you and Harry go out to sexually harass some ladies and take care of robo battle business. After which you head back home, have another chat with Lucy, then go to bed. Get up the next day and start it all over again. The game's pacing during this first 2/3 of the game is very, very slow, and I love it for that exact reason. Earlier I described this game's life sim elements as cozy, and that really is the perfect word for it. The game settles into a really comfortable rhythm where you hang out with your coworkers, meet a cast of ridiculous and very fun characters, and take care of the town's problems while slowly learning more about the world. Unlike a series such as Persona, the life sim elements in Custom Robo don't bog you down in a million different role-playing game systems. It's slow-paced but not glacial-paced. Your character is just sort of living his life as a Robo-Commander mercenary, and your experience of that life is limited to just the interesting parts. There is a lot of story that happens during this first 2/3 of the game. You meet up with your other Steelheart's partner, Marcia, a blue-haired and icy-hearted girl with a lot of emotional baggage. Now, where have I seen that trope before? Oh yeah, every anime ever. Marcia goes through a whole arc where she learns to open up and trust others. And there's also this whole plot about her older brother, who went mysteriously missing years ago. And she has special powers where she can read dead people's last thoughts, just so long as they happen to die while commanding a robo. Otherwise, no dice. Kind of a useless special ability if you think about it. You also meet your mercenary rival, whose actual name is Evil. Evil is a gloating, showboating, egomaniacal asshole who shows up just to harass you and act like a jerk. He also very plainly tricks your dumbass character during a break-in at the research lab that he's very obviously abetting. What a twist! And then later he tries to hand over a murder robo to the Evil Z Syndicate, but more on all that later. There's also this scene where you go to a party, and if you insist over and over again, like you have to select this dialogue option 20 times in a row, you can give your father's watch to Harry's sister, Myra. Take it. You said it was a gift from your father, you should take care of it. Take it. I can't take the only thing you have to remember your father by. Take it. This is such a bizarre conversation. You shouldn't give away something like that. You only regret it. Take it. It's an heirloom now. Keep it precious. Take good care of it. Take it. Listen, kid. I'm not going to take it. I said no. Take it. No. Take it. I told you I don't want it. Take it. It belonged to your father, right? How could you possibly give it away? Take it. Your father's memory means nothing to you, does it? Take it. Don't say that. It's disrespectful both to your father and to me, your host. I said no. Take it. I love how he does it. He has no additional dialogue. He just keeps repeating the same thing with that dumbass little smile on his face. This is so fun. Stop trying to get rid of it. This is getting really creepy. Take it. Fat Brett, what's wrong with you? It wouldn't be right. Take it. You can't make me take it. It's best if you hold on to it. Take it. I invited you here to be nice, not to have you dump your family's garbage on me. Take it. Are you seriously saying this? Tell me I'm imagining things. Take it. It's not good to give something important like this away. Take it. Something terrible will happen to you if you try to give that away. Take it. You sure something terrible is bound to happen? Take it. Okay, if you insist, I'll take it. And he gives it to her. This leads to a hilarious secret Easter egg later on, so remember it. As you go about your comfy life as a Robo-Commander mercenary, it becomes clearer and clearer that something stinks in Custom Robo world. And it's not just this funky big head seal Robo model. An autonomous Robo is running around killing people, and there are more and more sightings of a mysterious group called the Z Syndicate. But nobody knows who they actually are or what their goals are, only that it is certainly nefarious. And meanwhile, the useless police squad appears to be doing nothing about any of this, instead spending all its time holding tournaments and not chasing criminals. There's this scene where you actually confront the evil murder robo, and while battling inside its mental arena called a Holosseum, your character sees natural grass and trees for the first time in his life. Because while the game never draws any explicit attention to the fact Apparently, your characters are living in an entirely artificial world, where even the trees and grass are made of plastic. And yet this evil murder robo has natural grass and trees inside its mental arena, and your character has no idea how to react to them. Doesn't even know what real grass and trees are, which is pretty interesting. Throughout these days of Pleasant Life Simulator fun, you will be given multiple opportunities to go out and freely explore the world. And this is where the game gets really awesome, because this game has one of my favorite worlds in any video game. Now, Custom Robo's world isn't very big, and the visual design isn't that interesting. And very little history or lore is ever shared with the player. So why do I love it so much? Well, that is because the world of Custom Robo is absolutely filled with these hilarious and delightful little mini stories that you can completely miss if you don't take the time to explore. For example, if you check in with your neighbors every day, you can see this husband and wife constantly argue about what they should spend their family budget on. He wants a toupee to cover his bald head, and she wants a fancy handbag so she can feel fancy. If you talk to their daughter, she's like, "Do you know why we can afford 4 robos but not a toupee?" Well, that's because her parents purchased the robos on credit at a crazy interest rate. No financial sense, says the little girl. Also, the husband takes time off work just to argue with his wife about getting a toupee. And these family members keep popping up throughout the main story, usually entering tournaments, mistakenly believing that they will receive money if they win so they can buy their toupees and handbags, even though the tournaments aren't offering cash prizes, news which always disappoints them. Finally, in the post-game, after winning a big bet in an illegal gambling den, the husband has enough money to purchase a string of completely ridiculous-looking toupees, and these are all just delightful. I mean, look at these things. Another example is at the Custom Robo Licensing Examination Center. In Custom Robo World, to become a mercenary, you need a Class D license. To join the police force, you need to work up to a Class A license. If you check the exam center every single day, there's this guy in a police uniform trying and failing to get a Class D license over and over again. If you talk to him, he explains that he's not really a police officer. He's just a huge fanboy of the police. So he made this uniform, but he can't get into the force because he can't pass even the most basic license test. Over the course of the game, if you keep asking him about it, he eventually gets annoyed and is like, "How many times do I have to explain to you people? I'm not a cop, I just love cops." This story does have a happy ending. At the very end of the game, if you explore the police station, you can find this guy just chilling in the training room. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm still not a real cop because I couldn't pass that exam, but I've been hanging out here in my fake uniform and no one's kicked me out. So I guess I'm basically living my dream of being a police officer." This is really funny to me. Every single area in the game is filled with these stupid, ridiculous little stories, and they are so much fun. They add so much life and personality to what would otherwise be a totally static world. The world of Custom Robo is full of characters living out their own little dumb adventures that have nothing to do with the main storyline. And the craziest thing is that you can completely miss all of these if you don't go looking for them. The developers and writers put so much work into something that most people will probably never even see, and I love them for it. So, back to the main story, because eventually the main story gets completely bonkers. Eventually, it is revealed that the true purpose of all those tournaments the police were hosting was to find elite robo commanders, because the police need help. After a grueling series of battles against some of the best commanders in the world, your character is awarded the secret S-rank license, which means you are allowed to learn the true nature of the world. Okay, so this is where the story gets completely crazy. And also the way the story gets told is completely crazy too. The police chief asks you, "What is the shape of the world?" And of course you answer, "The world is round, bro, it's a sphere." And everyone is like, "No way, dude, obviously the world is flat. Everyone knows that." Then the chief asks you, "What is at the end of the world?" And of course you answer, there is no edge or end of the world. It's a sphere, so whatever direction you go in, if you go far enough, you'll just end up back where you started. And everyone is like, dude, you are so stupid. There's a wall surrounding the world. The world is flat and surrounded by a wall, and no one can go past the wall. Out of nowhere, without any build-up or hinting at all, the game reveals that not only are all of these characters living in an artificial world where even the grass and trees are made of plastic, but it's an artificial world where the world is flat and surrounded by a wall, and everyone just accepts this. But then you realize, of course it is. I've been exploring the world this whole time, and it is just a flat space surrounded by a wall. That is the whole world. Okay, so this is pretty crazy. Then the police chief is like, yo, check this out. And he opens up the wall, and you go outside the wall and discover that no, the world really is a sphere. You've just been living in this dome your entire life. And not only is the world a sphere, but the world outside your dome is a complete ruined wasteland where everything was destroyed hundreds of years ago. Okay, what the happening here? This is the most bonkers story I've ever seen. I can't tell if this is amazing or terrible writing. The writers just revealed a crazy twist in that the world I've been playing in was flat the entire time, just to immediately reverse 20 seconds later and instead reveal that no, the world actually is a sphere. Like, who wrote this thing? One of the most basic rules of storytelling is, if you have a plot twist, you have to set that up in advance. You have to prime your audience's expectations. You have to provide them with at least basic information about the nature of your world if you are going to later subvert that information. It's not a subversion if I didn't even know about what you are subverting in the first place. It's so crazy. Both of these twists come out of nowhere without any setup at all. It's bonkers, and I love it. Anyway, it turns out, hundreds of years ago, the entire world was destroyed by a creature called Rahu, whose origins are never explained. Rahu is that murder robo you faced earlier, the one with memories of grass and trees in its mental arena. Humanity was barely able to stop Rahu somehow, and then the few survivors sealed themselves inside the dome, and that's where humanity has lived ever since. Now, Rahu has returned, and the mysterious Z Syndicate is in possession of its body, and you've got to journey into the outside world, infiltrate Z's secret base, and destroy Rahu to save humanity. After a tearful farewell with Ernest that is genuinely kind of heartbreaking, you set off on your journey to save the world. Remember when this game was just a cozy, slow-paced life simulator with some occasional robo battling? Me neither. It's an over-the-top shonen action anime now, and you're gonna like it. You battle your way through Z's base, and discover that Z has stolen Rahu for the purpose of controlling its power to take over the world. Marcia's long-lost brother turns out to be one of their leaders, and he helps you defeat another leader named Oboro. Rahu escapes after Oboro attempts to take control of it. Then Marcia's brother reveals that the true leader of the Z Syndicate, now dead, was your character's father. Your father was a government scientist who had created the Z Syndicate with the intention of revealing the truth of the world to the populace and destroying Rahu. Marcia's brother also reveals that hundreds of years ago the government used a memory erasure device to lock Rahu in a millennia-long slumber, and then afterwards used that same memory erasure device on the entire human population to erase their memories of the outside world. So all of humanity would believe that the world had always been just a single flat dome surrounded by a wall, thus destroying the knowledge of the world's true nature and history for all time. I mean, holy shit. What is happening in this story? This is crazy. Anyway, after your character's father died, the Z Syndicate split into factions, who fought against each other, each trying to take Rahu's power to further their own personal machinations. The memory erasure device still exists, hidden somewhere inside the dome. The memory erasure device was hidden inside the watch your father gave you at the very beginning of the game. But remember, there's an Easter egg where you can give the watch away to Myra, Harry's sister. If you did that and get to this point in the game when everyone's like, alright, let's go defeat Rahu using the memory erasure device that your father gave you, then your character will be like, oh shit, I don't have it. And everyone will be like, oh my god, what is wrong with you? Why would you give that away? You ask Myra and she's like, I didn't bring it with me, I left it at home. So then you have to run all the way back to her house, grab the watch, and then run all the way back. Alright, I'll go get it, guys, don't worry. And then you have to literally, you have to run all the way back through the lab, past Overo, past these three guys. Keep on going down this way. Past these two guys. Okay. Past these two guys. Alright. Okay, past those four guys. Okay. Oh, past Shiner. See you later, Shiner. Okay, past these three guys. Okay. Alright, back to the entrance. Okay. Alright, then back down here. Okay, into the outside world, back into the dome, through the weird spot. Okay, gotta take the train again. Okay, no problem. Okay, now after the train, go take these secret... Oh, I gotta go. Said it was in the cabin. Okay, gotta take the secret bathroom elevator. Back up to the HQ. Okay. Alright, then out through the HQ. Alright, let's have a little chat with the police chief first. Hey, police chief, what's up? Fat Brett, what happened? Do you complete your mission? I forgot something. You forgot something? That's why you came back? This isn't a picnic, it's a job. No. I forgot something that would help us defeat Rahu. Oh, I see. Get on with it then. Alright, see ya. Just checking in. Okay, so head on back out. Let's go take a little trip to the park first. How's everybody doing at the park today? Hi. Z sounds like a hip, futuristic pet thing, or a lunch meat, or both. I can't believe it'll let me just talk to these people. So what was Z? It sounds like a candy company, an evil one. The Z word game is over. People get tired of fads quickly, don't they? I can just talk to all these people. Let's go see how Ernest is doing. Fat Brett, what happened? Are you alone? Where are Harry and Marcia? I left them. What? You abandoned your partners? No. And you call yourself a Steelheart? No, I mean, I'm going back right now. Is that true? Yes. Then quit wasting your time. Go, you douchebag. Alright, let's see how Lucy's doing. Hey, Luce. Sweeping the grass. Oh, you're back, are you? Where did you spend the night? You don't have to answer. Don't worry, it's none of my business. If you had a better job, we'd be able to afford a bag. If I didn't have to buy you all custom robos for the tournament, I could afford a toupee. I think they actually like fighting. Dad's been skipping work so that he and Mom can fight. That seems a little weird to me. Yeah, that is a little weird. Alright, let's go to bed. Bow, 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 bow. Hey, Bogue. Ah, long time no see. Thanks to you, my cafe's been peaceful. Business is slow, though. You got no customers, bud. He spent all night mumbling your names and crying into his iced, non-fat vanilla latte, no whip. Did something happen? Okay, let's head over to Harry's place. Bow, bow. There it is. All right. Better hurry and get this to surgery. Now you just have to walk all the way back. Okay. Back down the bathroom elevator. Ba-na-na-na. Bow, bow. Bow, bow. All I have to do is press A. Okay, back through here. Okay, back to Z's hideout. Alright, let's go ahead and run my way back through here. Can I go this way? It's an automated lock, it won't open. Okay. Alright, just walking back. Past Shiner again. How's it doing, Shiner? Okay, past those three guys, and then the guy who doesn't have any pants on. Okay. See that everybody's looking good. Past these two researchers. Okay, okay. Alright, down this hallway, past these two guys. Okay, okay. Past these two other guys. Okay, okay. Everybody's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. Okay, past those three guys. Alright, past Obero. Okay, looking good, looking good. Okay, through this hallway. Okay, okay, okay. And I'm back. Hey guys. This is hilarious. I've never seen something like this in any game before or since. Do you see why I love this game so much? Anyway, after all that, you take a trip through a ruined amusement park, and after a very tough final battle, defeat Rahu and save humanity. After that, the characters have a final conversation where they decide to reveal the truth of the world to everyone else. But the game's not done there. After you beat the story, you are only halfway done with Custom Robo, because this game has some of the most extensive post-game content of any single-player game I've ever played. After you complete the story, you begin the Grand Battle, where you have to battle basically every single character in the entire game, in a series of very difficult tournaments. During these, you unlock dozens more Robo parts and Holosseums, even more new minor storylines and characters are introduced, and entire new mechanics. For example, in some of the tournaments, you are only allowed to use each of your Robo parts once. That means that after you've used them once, you have to switch to something else. So if you're like me and you played nearly the entire story using a single set of parts, you are screwed. You have to come up with entirely new strategies using entirely new combinations of parts. Good freaking luck. There's also this tag battle mode where you fight by switching between two entirely different Robos at once. Against an opponent who is doing the same, you're essentially controlling two Robos at once while fighting two other Robos at once. And it's really cool. The story also continues being crazy. It turns out after the final battle, the government revealed the truth of the world to the entire population. And literally, no one cared. Every human in existence was told that their lives were a lie, and they all just took it in stride. No problem at all. Then the government just casually wiped the memories of every criminal you faced in the game, including the entire Z Syndicate, and gave them new personalities, which I'm pretty sure is just murder with extra steps. The even more f***ed up part of it is that after wiping their memories and giving them new personalities, the government told all those people they were actors and forced them to play the parts of their former selves in a Z Syndicate themed amusement park. What kind of f***ed up Black Mirror shit is this? This is seriously messed up and freaky. And that's Custom freaking Robo, man. One of the craziest games I've ever played. Unfortunately, Custom Robo only ever had one more release. Custom Robo Arena released on the Nintendo DS in 2006, and was the first game in the series released in Europe. Those poor Europeans never got to experience the absolute lunacy that was the GameCube Custom Robo. Arena was pretty good, but it didn't continue the story of the GameCube game at all, and instead was set in a completely different and far less interesting setting, which was a huge disappointment to me. After that, the Custom Robo series vanished into the night and was never heard from again. The developer of Custom Robo, Noise Incorporated, does still seem to exist, though they haven't developed a new game in over 6 years, and I can't find any information on what they're working on now, so they may have quietly gone defunct. Nintendo, I don't even know who actually holds the rights to this series, but for God's sake, bring it back. Or at least make the old games available somewhere so new players can discover this crazy forgotten gem. The Nintendo Switch Online Services Nintendo 64 library is a perfect opportunity for you to finally bring those old N64 Custom Robo games to North America for the first time ever. Come on, Nintendo, do something cool for once, you wimps. Oh yeah.